Joining us now from the Province Post Media, our Tuesday regular, Patrick Johnston, who, started the Bodog poll question, are the playoffs already lost? And we'll go from there.
Well, they got to play 6:30 hockey from here on out. Do you believe this team can play 6:30 hockey?
This team. This team?
They played 6:49 hockey under Bruce last year.
Shorter span.
So Blake and I think are both in the same boat, and that is we don't think it's lost yet, but we're awfully close here to the edge.
Yeah, it's definitely close. And I think in the same sort of vein as I mentioned on the Twitter Spaces, there was on what day was that? Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
It's all a blur every day. It's its own disaster. You're in the window now where you're gotta be asking. If you're not ready to move, you've got to be getting ready to move. To make changes, because I get it. Partly, you're playing one of the most high pressure teams in the NHL. You're missing Quinn. You're missing your best defenseman. But if you're struggling that badly to break the puck out like they were last night, a lot of the night. I mean, they held things kind of close, but they just couldn't move the puck. They couldn't do anything on. Like there just was nothing.
PJ, we talked about this last night. Like they have enough trouble with Quinn Hughes in the lineup doing that.
But that's what I mean.
Let alone getting into the opponent's zone with control of the puck. That without him, you're sub NHL.
Yeah,
you're not nearly at this league standard in those areas. Let me ask you this. Like, do you think the answers are in that room? Like, they went on a couple long winning streaks last year. Could you see that again, or do you think they fundamentally have to change something about the lineup or the roster to make a run?
I mean, we saw how good the goalie was last year. And I think if they get that kind of goaltending, I mean, Thatcher Demko has been average at best, right? If they can get that kind of goaltending here, sure, it's possible. But I mean, you just look at the schedule as it comes. Like it's, they've got the Kraken on Thursday with Martin Jones in net. I mean, that's if ever there was a must-win 8 games in the season, it's that one. But then you have the Penguins coming in on Friday night, and all of a sudden, if you start just going to probabilities, that's going to be, they obviously don't have to travel very far, but that's a tough one. So, you could conceivably finish this week still with only 1 win on the season. Then you have the Devils, and the Devils are, I think an interesting X-Factor team. Then you have the Ducks, similar story. Then you have the Predators, and then you're on that Eastern road trip, which, other than the Habs, the Senators, I think, are, of course, everyone kind of likes to talk to them right now. But other than the Habs, there's not a lot of easy games there. There's a rematch with the Sabres. There's a game against the Bruins. There's all the hoopla that goes with the Hall of Fame stuff. The path in front of them, like they have to, it's right now. It's literally right there because, of course, within a month, we're at American Thanksgiving. And all of a sudden, are you looking at American Thanksgiving and you got 5 wins? Like it is kind of astounding how quickly things are running away from them. And they need, I mean, it's going to have to happen in that room. I mean, that's the simple truth.
Every game is huge, obviously, for, going forward here. But in particular, Seattle, because that presents an opportunity for victory over a team that should be no better than you. That's for sure. They should be worse than you, you'd think, after, continuing to tinker with their lineup and still no superstar in that group as well. And now with Grubauer gone for a little while, it'll be Marty Jones, who is struggling to stay in the league, for heaven's sakes. I mean, if they're facing Martin Jones, God bless him, North Vancouver boy, if they lose to that Kraken team, you have no excuse. I don't care that Quinn Hughes is in the lineup. Like, there's just no excuse.
Yeah. No, your forward group should be good enough to beat a team like that. I mean, in the end, the challenge has been from the start getting the puck up the ice. But, they were in basically every game on that road trip. I think on the balance of things, they deserved to come away from that road trip at least to win. They should have won in Columbus probably. They could have stolen a win in Minnesota. But here they are. And they're at the point now where there's just there are, they've essentially used all their excuses, I think. And it has to happen. There's just the time has run out. if they lose, they lose and they lose. It starts becoming how many points are still available left in the season. And that's something, you don't usually talk about until March. And we did that last year, and they surprised us all and kept it alive until almost the very end. But at the end of the day, feels awfully familiar like the beginning of last year when there was a different coach and everyone said the coach was the problem. And I think we're starting to realize, no, this is a team that's badly built and certainly has some offensive talents, but if you can't move the puck, what does all that matter? And Ilya Mikheyev, he's a guy. Cam Sharon made this point in Cam's post-game analysis. People are paying attention. It's been absolutely outstanding.
He's joining us on Thursday.
And learning so much. Like, he's just a guy who's worked in the game and learned. He went into, he started as a guy who was just fascinated with the numbers, trying to understand what we were seeing, use that. Then he went and worked for a team for 8 years and learned a ton. And now he's trying to explain the game. And it's just one of the most fascinating. Some smart team's going to hire him sooner rather than later to just be the bridge role between the numbers and the coaches, just to explain, here's what we're seeing, here's what we're not seeing. But anyway, his point about
the Canucks have an opening there after Rachel Dory no longer.
Ilya Mikheyev, and Cam's point about Ilya Mikheyev is, here's a guy who should be carrying the puck up the middle of the ice, and we just haven't seen that. And that, among many things, is the thing that the Canucks need to start making happen. They have players that, they are flawed, they're not great, but they still have players that can do stuff. JT Miller scored twice, but did anybody think he was actually any good last night?
No, he wasn't any good last night. And the team wasn't any good. And I think about AV's comments at the end of that losing streak that Alex Burrows ended back in, 2009, where he said, at the end of a winning streak, you're winning games you probably shouldn't be winning, and at the end of a losing streak, you're losing games you probably should be winning. The Canucks aren't that close. Like, to me, they're not getting, oh, shucks, they were really close there. Things, the process is working better here. Process isn't working any better. The third period was atrocious, and really much of the game last night was atrocious.
Well, and I think back to the post-game in Philly when Miller was, furious, that he'd been on for all 8 goals against, and there was just no excuse to that. And then I talked to him a week later, and he's calmed himself down and is talking about how he's happy with his process, and you're kind of like, huh? Like, nothing's happening with you on the ice, and your contract hasn't even started yet. But you were a guy that scored 99 points last year. You made things happen, but we haven't seen him. He rushed the puck. He would slick past the puck. Slick passes all over the place. He just looks like he's fighting the puck all the time. I don't think actually anything's changed all that much defensively. He's kind of the same guy he always was. He wanders a bit and makes some silly turnovers. And, obviously Luke Schenn yelled at him about that on Saturday. But yeah, there's other than Elias Pettersson and, Niels Höglander's energy is absolutely fantastic, but the guy's got to pot some goals. That is the fundamental truth about him, is that he needs to put the puck in the net. But other than those two, and I guess Vasily Podkolzin steamrolled some guy. That line looked really good last night. Horvat obviously has had some moments, and he's trying to find the goals, but I think there was one shift that was really outstanding from that Lazar Joshua line, but it's just everything is so overall ineffective. That there's just not a lot happening, and like I said, there were games last week I think they should have won, but the overall picture is so underwhelming right now that you just look at what's in front of them, and it's going to be really challenging, and they're behind the 8 ball, and you can understand why they had Rutherford talked to them on the weekend. I've heard they've had another players only meeting. Like, they are trying to figure this stuff out. Like, they recognize the situation they're in, but in the end, there's only they can fix this problem.
There's something you two just said that I can't let slide by.
Uh-oh.
I have to admonish both of you.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
By what right do either of you have to say, the 0-5-2 Vancouver Canucks should beat the Seattle Kraken? Patrick even dropped a team like that. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
What in the hell?
How dare
you? They are 32nd with a bullet. Guys, they're the worst in the NHL. Yeah. If we're talking about an AHL franchise, sure, but we're talking about an NHL franchise who although they've lost 5 games, they were close in 3 of them. They have a couple of wins, things that have eluded the Vancouver Canucks, and they actually have the excuse of we've lost our first 2 goalies.
Yeah, right.
Which Vancouver doesn't.
Yeah. No. Hey, you're not wrong. I mean, even when I said it, I was like, how do I frame this? No, you're not wrong.
Both of you need to check yourselves and your opinion of these Vancouver
That's a
Canucks
7-game sample size. That's a 7-game sample size versus
we got Dave Tomlinson coming on the show. Seattle
82
Kraken
games
broadcaster coming up this week. Yeah. I'm not going to tell him about this. I fear for what he might say to you, Blake Price.
Matt's just going to host on his own all week.
That would be fabulous.
Send the rest of us away.
Blake, take the week off.
Can I please be suspended?
All right. Hey, answer me this. Do you think they're just waiting for Bruce to get to win 600 and then going to make a coaching change thereafter? Like, we can't fire him on 599 wins because everyone's going to go, oh, how cruel. We love Bruce. He maybe wasn't doing a good job, but at least let him get his milestone victory. Is there any world where you could see them moving on Bruce quickly here?
I'm really hesitant. I mean, like I said, I lay it out. I look at how challenging the next month is, just in all reality. I think, and it's been noted by many and pointed out that obviously they still are paying for Travis Green and, that they had this commitment with Boudreau that in the end they stuck with. At some point, you do have to go with the sort of necessities of the mood of the room, even if it's not necessarily going to change anything. In the end, it's the idea that a different voice might make something change. But we're less than a year into Boudreau being here. That alone to me says, well, that's not going to fix anything. If you're already talking about message in the room. If you're making a change, what's the purpose of making the change? And so for that alone, I think they just won't. I don't feel like they're going to move quickly here. There is the likes of, say, like Rick Tocchet out there. But, everyone keeps talking about Barry Trotz, but I don't think Barry Trotz is any I don't think that's going to be an imminent decision on his part. In the end, I think this is just, they got to win, but in the end, I think all the other thing too is as long as they keep selling tickets. And I get the feeling when I showed up last night, I was in the stands last night as a fan. Went with my dad. It was for his birthday thing. I was, impressed at how big the crowd was. It was a big crowd, and they've got the Penguins on Friday, and you've got to think that's going to be a big crowd. But it is, in the end, the same analysis I've applied before, that if things are turning sour financially, then maybe there's pressure to make a change. But if they're still selling tickets, obviously obviously they want to make the playoffs. Yeah. That's the priority from ownership. But in the short term, as long as they're still selling tickets and they're not getting booed off the ice. They were booed off the ice on Saturday, but they weren't booed off the ice last night.
Right.
So
we made the point yesterday that when it becomes an economic matter, when you look at it and go, okay, maybe there's more money to be made if we do move on the coach or do change things up, or we've got to make sure we secure revenues for the rest of the year. At that point,
that was supposed to be a festive night last night. That was supposed to be high energy.
Yeah, Diwali. Yeah.
There's nothing. Right.
Buddy, thank you for this. We'll let you get back about your day, and we'll catch up next Tuesday, Patrick.
Absolutely, guys. See you next week.
Be well.